No one can yearn as hard as a 19th century Frenchman, truly. Hi, coming to you fresh after my The Secret History book review reading vlog thing. It's halfway through October, and I figure what better time to tell you what books I want to read in October than halfway through the month after it took me half a month to read a book. So that's what we're going to do. I made a list of the books that I want to read, including The Secret History. Secret History is actually the first book on here, but I'll give some details, like not from my extremely biased, I just finished the book last night perspective. I actually have Goodreads pulled up, mostly because I don't know where else to go to be able to get everything I want to say, but that's where we are. So the first book that's on my October reading wish list that, like I mentioned, I just finished, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It was published September 16th, 1992, and the paperback version of it has 556 pages in it. The summary, again, on Goodreads, says, under the influence of their charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits at an elite New England college discover a way of thinking and living that is a world away from the humdrum of existence of their contemporaries. But when they go beyond the boundaries of normal morality, they slip gradually from obsession to corruption and betrayal, and at last, inexorably, into evil. Like I said, I just finished this book. Like, that sounds like what it's about, but also that sounds nothing like what it's about. So that's that. Okay. I also said that I wanted to look at the first review for every single one. Like, whatever the first review is, I'm going to read it. Well, maybe not the first one, because, you know, people on Goodreads like to like to write paragraphs. The first review says, absolute brilliance, brilliant character study, and some gorgeous, gorgeous prose. There have been reviews complaining that it meanders and that there's purple prose, but for me, I could have gone on reading another 600 pages, I think. I could have not gone on reading an additional 600 pages, but I will agree that the prose is gorgeous. Second book is Dracula by Bram Stoker. So this was first published in 1897, and oh my gosh, this one's long too. It's 488 pages long. Summary. When Jonathan Harker visits Transylvania to help Count Dracula with the purchase of a London house, he makes a series of horrific discoveries about his client. Soon afterwards, various bizarre incidents unfold in England. An apparently unmanned ship wrecked off the coast of Whitby. A young woman discovers strange puncture marks on her neck, and the inmate of a lunatic asylum raves about the master and his imminent arrival. That's kind of just the book summary. There's a couple of other lines, but it just kind of talks about what was written about by Bram Stoker in this book and kind of the topics that he explored and discovered. I can say why this one's on my reading list. It's simply because I love a good vampire story, and this is like the OG vampire story. So I feel like it's just something that I need to read eventually. Let's go and find the most recent. 3 stars. Overall, I quite enjoyed this, although I lost focus a few times during Van Helsing's long monologues. Oh, great. The story and its concepts are well known, but it was good to finally read the source material for myself. I particularly enjoyed examining the themes of the book as a cultural mirror of its time and how it reflects Victorian social anxieties. Dracula can be seen as a foreign invader, threatening and corrupting English values. He infects his victims like the plague, linking into the poorly understood diseases of the era. In particular, the story was preoccupied with female sexuality and how it was portrayed as dangerous and impure. The vampiric female's overt sexuality threatened Victorian ideals of purity and chastity. There are several scenes with thinly veiled erotic undertones that would no doubt have been shocking for readers at the time. Honestly, that makes me want to read it more. Like that, she only gave it 3 stars, but some of the analysis that this particular reviewer gave makes me want to read it more. Third book on the list, Phantom of the Opera. This one, I'm really hoping that I like, and I really want to read it. Oh, is Phantom of the Opera actually Gothic fiction? Because I read Mexican Gothic, and that book was weird. The Phantom of the Opera was written by, oh boy, Gaston Leroux. That is my guess. First published in 1910, and it's 360 pages. So, the summary for this book says, The Phantom of the Opera is a riveting story that revolves around the young Swedish Christine Day. Her father, a famous musician, dies, and she is raised in the Paris Opera House with his dying promise of a protective angel of music to guide her. After a time at the opera house, she begins hearing a voice, who eventually teaches her how to sing beautifully. All goes well until Christine's childhood friend, Raoul, comes to visit his parents, who are patrons of the opera, and he sees Christine when she begins successfully singing on stage. The voice, who is the deformed, murderous ghost of the opera house, named Eric, however, grows violent in his terrible jealousy until Christine suddenly disappears. The phantom is in love, but it can only spell disaster. And that kind of, in my head, when I first, because don't you know how Barnes & Nobles will do like the redone editions of classics, and they're really pretty. So when I went and I looked at one, I picked up the Phantom of the Opera one, and I only read either the very beginning of the summary or the very end of the summary, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds exactly like a book that I want to read. And now reading this full summary, I was right. I need to read this book. Okay, let's go and find the first most recent review that's not 900 pages long. This reviewer gave it 5 stars and only left 4 points. It says, if Dracula was a band kid, holy Stockholm Syndrome, no one can yearn as hard as a 19th century Frenchman, truly. Watching someone you love someone else, sigh and drag of a cigarette, at least I have a nose. That's the entire review, and honestly, those first 2 points are really funny. Next book. This one is Love Letters to a Serial Killer. I saw it while I was browsing at a Barnes & Nobles. Obviously, we're getting closer to like Halloween, so those are just kind of the types of books that each store are picking to put out on their table spreads, and I saw this one, and I said, okay, seems interesting, so read the back, took a picture, and now here it is on my reading wish list. So, Love Letters to a Serial Killer, written by Tasha Coriel? Sounds right. I really try to ignore star ratings, but this one is tracking a little low. Okay. Summary. Here we go. Oh, it was published in 2024, and it's 320 pages. So, an aimless young woman starts writing to an accused serial killer while he awaits trial, and then, once he's acquitted, decides to move in with him. I do not remember reading that on the back of the summary. And take the investigation into her own hands in this dark and irresistibly compelling debut thriller. So, that was like the blurb. Here's the actual summary. Recently ghosted and sick of watching her friends fade into the suburbs. This is what I read. I did not know about the move in with him part. 30-something Hannah finds community in a true crime forum that's on a mission to solve the murders of 4 women in Atlanta. After William, a handsome lawyer, is arrested for the killings, Hannah begins writing him letters. It's the perfect outlet for her pent-up frustration and rage. The exercise empowers her and even feels healthy at first, until William writes back. Hannah's interest in the case goes from curiosity to obsession, leaving space for nothing else as her life implodes around her. After she loses her job, she heads to Georgia to attend the trial and befriends other true crime junkies like herself. When a 5th woman is discovered murdered, the jury has no choice but to find William not guilty, and Hannah is the first person he calls upon his release. The two of them quickly fall into a routine of domestic bliss, well, as blissful as one can feel while secretly investigating their partner for serial murder. You want to know what this book is giving me? This book is giving me this. Pink cover and all. Because that ending part, moving in together, that is really giving what happens in this book. Basically, the lessons that we should learn from these books, even though I haven't read it, is stop moving in with strange men. Let's go find the first review. This person gave it 4 stars. It just says, the ending was not satisfying, but I like books about weird people with psych problems. I mean, I can't say I disagree about the second part of the statement. Fictional books is an important word for me to put in there. Fictional books about weird people with psych problems. They're interesting to read, like, you have to admit it. But that's that one. Still excited to read that one. Normally, when I'm looking at books, I don't read the summaries. I don't read reviews, and I don't read summaries. So I tend to not know what I'm reading before I'm gonna go into it. I harshly judge books on covers and about the first line of the summary, and that's it. Or if someone will pull a line from it or recommend it based on a different context, then I'll read it for that reason. But I don't read the back of the book, like the summary, and I don't usually read reviews. So right now, all this is doing is basically confirming that I'm correct in wanting to read these books. Star ratings be damned. The 5th book on this TBR list is The Sound of Waves by, let me pull up my pronunciation guide. Again, it's The Sound of Waves by Yukio Mishima. Again, found it on a table in Barnes & Noble. Said, seems good. It was published in 1954, and it's only 183 pages. So, summary reads, set in a remote fishing village in Japan, The Sound of Waves is a timeless story of first love. It tells of Shinji, a young fisherman, and Hatsu, the beautiful daughter of the wealthiest man in the village. Shinji is entranced with the sight of Hatsu in the twilight on the beach, and they fall in love. When the villagers' gossip threatens to divide them, Shinji must risk his life to prove his worth. I'm sorry if that sounded very robotic. I'm trying not to butcher names, and I do not study Japanese at the moment, so we're in steep butchering territory right now. But yeah, again, summary, still want to read the book. Let's go and find the most recent review. 2025 review. One of the most beautifully written books I've read. I don't think I've ever read translated Japanese work. I have a lot of books on a list, and I have one here. I have Butter. Haven't read it yet, but I have not read a lot of translated Japanese work. So I'm excited to kind of see how the translation comes across, because, I mean, there's so much that gets lost in translation. Literally, there are phrases and words that don't exist that you then have to take one word that describes one thing in Japanese, and it might turn into 2 or 3 sentences worth of context in English. So I can't wait to see how the translation comes across. One of my goals in life is to learn 2nd, 3rd, 4th languages. And honestly, if I were to put a top tier goal on that goal, it would be to take that and study it hard enough and become good enough with it to eventually translate books, because I just think it's such a fascinating thing that does not get enough credit. You're not taking a book and going through word for word and just translating it straight out. You have to essentially retell the whole story into a different language, different cultural context. It's so interesting to me, and I want to study it, but alas, I shall just read this book and a lot of other translations. If there's any good translated fiction, please let me know. I feel like one of the best ways to get out of a reading slump is to simply read books from other places, because the tropes and the plots and all of that get turned around. There's new ones. There's things that's very common in the States that are not common abroad. So I think it's a good way to break a reading slump. Read books written by people who are not from the West, don't speak English. Last book on this list is Fahrenheit 451. I know vaguely what this book is about, but I do not know in detail what this book is about, so I might find something out right now. We shall see. Fahrenheit 451. It says the Kindle edition is 194 pages, which is the version that I have. So I don't know how long like the hard copy, you know what I'm saying, book is. And this was originally published in 1953. Guy Montag is a fireman. His job is to destroy the most illegal of commodities, the printed books, along with the houses in which they are hidden. Montag never questions the destruction and ruin his actions produce, returning each day to his bland life and what he's married? I didn't know he's married. And wife, Mildred. Yeah, wow, that literally mild is in the name Mildred. M-I-L, mild. I'm sorry if you're named Mildred, but like I have to point it out that I don't know if the author, Ray Bradbury, intended to do that, but it is in fact there. So it's kind of like clever on his part if it was on purpose, and like a happy little coincidence if it wasn't. Anyway, returning each day to his bland life and wife Mildred, who spends all day with her television family. Okay, that's interesting. But when he meets an eccentric young neighbor, Clarice, who introduces him to a past where people didn't live in fear and to a present where one sees the world through the ideals in books instead of the mindless chatter of television, Montag begins to question everything he has ever known. So, books are bad, television is fine. Like I said, I know what the book is about, but I don't know any of the details of the book. So that's like an interesting little tidbit to me. Last one, let's go and find the most recent and shortest review. Of course, this is an influential book and a rich one in terms of ideals and commentary about censorship and the ways in which we censor ourselves. Probably as badly now as when Bradbury was writing this in 1950. But I have to say, I was surprised that my edition had so many typos. I counted at least 4, and there were all sorts: a word omission, a letter omission, some oddball comma placement, or lack thereof. It's pretty ironic if you think about Bradbury's coda about the editing of his work. Maybe there's no way to know for sure if the edition a person is reading is really fully the approved author version the author thought you were going to read. That's an interesting point, actually. But please don't let my paranoia send you down a rabbit hole. A butchered book with copy errors is better than no book at all. I can't believe I didn't get around to reading this until my early 50s, but I'm glad I did read it now. At this point in American history, I couldn't have appreciated it until the 2020s. I must say that in some books I get, when it comes to like word or letter omissions, sometimes it's a print error. Commas, not so much, but I have gotten books where like a word will just be gone from the middle of a page, like middle of a sentence. And for me, it seems like a print error as opposed to something with copy edits. But I do agree with his, I think it's very relevant to American history now. And also, I agree, well, not agree, it gave me pause to think about whether or not the editions that you read that have been looked over again and re-edited are what the author intended to go out into the world. So, still excited to read that one. Didn't know some of those details before I read that summary. I told you, I just grab things off shelves. But yeah, that is the end of my second reading diary entry from the rest of my October TBR. I have to say, realistically, there's no way I'm getting to all these books by the end of the month. I don't even have all of them, first of all. I had to put, Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, and Love Letters to a Serial Killer on suspended hold on Libby. And right now I have The Sound of Waves and Fahrenheit 451 ready to go. So right now it sounds like those are the 2 books that I'm going to be reading for the rest of the month. And then the rest of them I'll carry over into November, maybe, possibly, probably. But I really, 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 really want to read The Phantom of the Opera. So hopefully I get around to that one as well. But if not, oh well, I'll read them eventually. That's the fun thing I feel like about reading, is that you think if I keep reading and reading and reading, I'll run out of books to read, but you don't. I've had Fahrenheit 451 on my list for a while. I put the hold on it like almost 9 months ago, and it just came through. So that's one of the reasons why it took me 9 months to read it. And I feel like there are lots of reasons why it takes people longer amounts of time to get through the books they want to read. Personally, I didn't plan on The Secret History taking me half the month to read, but it did. So here we are. And now realistically, with the speed and the time that I have to dedicate to reading, like we are now more realistically only going to get through like 2 or 3 more books this month, which is fine. And then the rest of them can just get shuffled back into the thing. And when I read them, I will read them. I've learned to not force books. Like, I don't know. Like my first read, like the first time the Secret History thing came through, I pushed it because I think I had just finished reading something else that was really, really long, and going from one dense piece of text to another dense piece of text didn't seem like a good idea. And so yeah, I pushed that one. But anyway, that's all I'm doing for today. That's it, because this was way longer than I intended it to be. Okay, bye. Enjoy the rest of October.